Hey, what is happening, guys? Rules for Rebels here, and today we are doing week one of our first ever book club. We're going to be covering the Millionaire FastLane by MJ Demarco. And it's basically a book on kind of how to fast track your way to wealth. It's one of the top selling books in business and entrepreneurship on Amazon. Decided we were going to do a book club on this, as I said the other week. Reason behind it is so that we can kind of discuss the ideas. And also, if you're anything like me, it's easy to kind of reading something we should all be doing, especially like self-improvement or business type stuff. But it's something that's easy to kind of get lazy about or whatever. So I figure if we kind of treat this like a book club, it's kind of like having a gym buddy. I'm accountable to cover a section each week. You guys are accountable to cover a section each week. How we're going to do this, the book is broken into parts. So part one was a pretty easy read. It's just chapters 1 and 2. Part 2 is chapters 3 and 4. Part 3 is chapter 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So as we go on, the workload of the reading is going to get a little bit more, but kind of a nice, easy start to it. I did want to extend an invitation to you guys, any of you guys out there who are participating in this book club. If you would like to host or MC one of the weeks and you want to make the video and discuss the book, I would love to have you guys on. It's something that I want to do more in the new year. So if there's a chapter that you especially liked, if there's a chapter that you can relate to in your personal life, I'd love to have you come on. So just drop a comment on this week's video and tell me that you'd like to, MC or whatever we want to call it, next week's video or lead the book club next week, and you can make the video. All I'd ask is that you have a video into me by Sunday or at the very latest Monday of the week, because every Monday we're going to be covering a different chapter. I figure that'll give everybody enough time to read. So before we get into this, I saw an awesome movie this week, and if you guys are looking for a good thriller to watch, The Perfect Getaway. I can't remember the people who are in it, but really, really good thriller. Nice twist at the end. So yeah, if you're looking for a good movie, check that out. So let's get into the MJ Demarco book club, guys. So the book starts out: go to school, get good grades, get a job, save 10%, invest in the stock market, max out your 401k, slash your credit cards, clip coupons, and then someday, maybe, when you're 65 years old, maybe you'll be rich, right? If everything goes right. So one thing I noticed that frustrates a lot of people, myself included, about a lot of these like big picture type business books, is that people want a roadmap. People want the 10 steps to follow. Start a WordPress site, use this blah, blah, blah template, use this traffic generating app, watch the money flowing. Like, people want a step-by-step roadmap. And the reality is, unless you find somebody doing exactly what you're doing, there's not going to be a roadmap. And I'll give you guys kind of an analogy or whatever. So you can probably get some great business advice from Elon Musk. He's the guy who created PayPal and Tesla and a lot of other stuff. He's a wealth of information. He's a bright guy. You could probably get a lot of great business advice from him, right? But he's not going to give you a roadmap to starting your first affiliate site, right? He's going to talk about more big picture stuff for you. And that's kind of my point, is there isn't a roadmap for you. You have to figure things out for yourself. When I first started affiliate marketing and doing things like that, I found myself trying to copy other people's ways of doing things. And I'm never going to be as good of a blah, blah, blah as this guy. Nobody can be as good of a me as me. So do your own thing, focus on your strengths, etc. And a thing that I notice a lot of times from messages and comments and emails and stuff I get from people is like, hey, dude, do you think you could I'm looking to make like $5,000 a week. Could you help me? Okay, well, what can I help you with? Okay, so I need you to come up with like an idea for like an e-commerce store and find me like a niche, and then I want you to find me like 5 products that sell like $3,000 worth of the product a week, and have like 10 times margins. But I don't want anyone else selling it. I don't want any competition, which, you can't pull sales stats on something if there is no competition. Like, there being competition allows you to pull sales stats and kind of vet a product. But anyhow, you guys get my point. A lot of people want everything handed to them or want the recipe handed to them. And really, you have to find your own direction. You have to find your own niche. So basically, with this whole MJ Demarco thing, getting back to that, there's essentially 3 paths. There's a sidewalk, which is people, basically check to check, scraping by. Then you have the slow lane, which is the above path of go to college, get a job, slave away for 40 years, save 10% of your income, invest in the stock market. And then there's the fast lane, which isn't easy and it isn't overnight, but you can potentially bust your butt for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and do in that short amount of time what it takes other people 30, 40, 50 years to do. One thing I noticed about MJ Demarco, he says we have to throw conventional wisdom out the window. So he says everything your parents, your teachers, financial advisors, professors have been telling you is all wrong. Throw it out the window. Um, and I sort of agree with that, sort of disagree with that. We'll get into one of the points that I sort of disagree with. Talking points. Let's see. The slow lane is sacrificing your youth, dreams, and freedom for a decent life at 70 if all goes right. And I thought this was a good comparison or a good jump off point to talk about like Alex Becker's The 10 Pillars of Wealth or even Tim Ferriss. The idea basically being that a lot of people consider getting a job and working for a company to be the safe route to take, right? And maybe 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago that was the case. There was a time when you could sell shoes in a department store and make enough money to support your family. There was a time when my grandpa worked in a factory and made enough money to have a car and a house and support three kids and everything. As our economy has turned from like a manufacturing economy to a service-based economy, wages have gone down. Not all those opportunities are there. And companies just aren't really loyal like they used to be. So, I mean, the idea that you can go work hard for a company for 20 years and that they're going to support you through retirement is just not going to happen anymore. Pensions don't happen. You're not going to earn 8 or 10% putting money away in the bank. Wall Street is rigged. Like that whole line of thinking basically is it's just not safe anymore. That the path you're told to follow is a path that hasn't worked in decades, basically, is what MJ DeMarco is saying. So Alex Becker in his book had an analogy, and it was, okay, if you're going to put a new roof on a house, and there's two contractors. The first contractor is going to do the job in 2 days, right? The second contractor is going to take a month, or he's going to take 30 days to do the job. We don't want it to rain when we're putting our roof on, right? So do you think there's more of a chance of it raining with the contractor who's going to take 2 days to do the job or the contractor who's going to take 30 days? Well, obviously, there's more of a chance that it's going to rain over the course of 30 days and 2 days, so the long-term plan is riskier. And Alex Becker, Tim Ferriss, and MJ DeMarco seem to say that the safe path isn't necessarily going and working for somebody else. In order for that path to play out, in order for you to be rich during retirement or whatever, you're going to have to live to be 70 years old or possibly even older because people are having to work older into retirement. You're going to have your health so that you can actually enjoy the money at the end of this, 40, 50, 60 years, whatever it is. The stock market has to continue performing well because essentially you're banking on your investments in the stock market. You can't be laid off by your company. You can't have any crazy life circumstances come up, and you have to maintain gainful employment through this entire 50-year period. Well, that's a lot of things over a long period of time that have to go right? Whereas if you start a business and bust your butt and really hustle and are able to do this in a couple of years, there's a lot, some people may say it's riskier, but there's a lot less chances of something going wrong. And I personally would argue that entrepreneurship isn't really that risky. I think a lot of people, when they think entrepreneur, look at these Shark Tank stories and it's like, oh, I have 2 mortgages out on my house and I quit my job and this, that, and the other. And really their life's on the line, right? Like when I started my business, I had a job. Me and my business partner invested $268 in starting this business. And 2 years later, we were doing over $2 million in sales. Like there was no risk to it. I started other online, like assuming you're not making a product where you have to have a, like molds and stuff made, assuming you're not opening up a brick and mortar store, assuming you're not designing some new software, your business should take almost no money to maybe a couple $100s max to start out. You normally don't need to quit your job to do it. So you can really start doing some freelance stuff, join the gig economy, start a business with very little risk to your normal job. So you can keep that safety net of your normal job while still striking out and trying to do other things. Another thing I thought was interesting, being young and rich is possible. I think this was a big mental block for me when I was younger, and even though I think the main audience here on this channel is maybe like 24 to 35, I do notice we have a lot of 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year, late teens, early 20s people out there. And one thing I really want you guys to break through, and let me know, drop a comment and let me know if this is something that you kind of see as well. But when I was in college, when I was going through college, I almost had this mindset or this mental block in my subconscious that like, oh, well, I can't start a real business until I'm out of college, right? Or, oh, I can't make real money, or I can't expect real success until I'm out of college. And that's complete BS. There are a lot of 17-year-old kids out there who've built large social media followings who are making a killing off of it. There's a lot of 17-year-old kids out there who are making 6 figures running YouTube gaming channels or gaming on Twitch and things like that. So this idea that you need to be 22 or older to have success or to make real money is complete bullshit. Get it out of your head, and that's one of the things that MJ Demarco talked about. Um, Another thing he kind of touched on, this was a little bit, I'm curious to see where he goes with this. He kind of says define success in fun and freedom as well as money. And that's one thing Tim Ferriss says too is if you enjoy doing it, it's not work. So even though Tim Ferriss maybe puts in 30, 40 hours a week, like blogging and doing the other things that he doesn't really view that as time working because it's something that he enjoys. So that's kind of his way of looking at it. But I think more so, what he's talking about is when you're working for yourself, when you're the one benefiting from the fruits of your labor, it's a lot more rewarding. And you know, even if you're making 40 grand in a job and you're making 40 grand working for yourself, I can pretty much guarantee you're going to be happier and a lot more fulfilled doing it for yourself. And then lastly, in chapter 1, he talks about how his defining moment was one day when he was walking to an ice cream shop and saw a young guy hop out of a Lamborghini Countach, which happened to be his dream car. It made him realize young people can be rich, and made him realize you don't have to be pretty, 7 feet tall, be able to dunk, or have a magical singing voice. So he went on to this mission of like studying entrepreneurs, and that's kind of what led him to his success. And in studying entrepreneurs, he didn't want to focus on rich people, he didn't want to focus on famous people, and he didn't want to focus on people who had some amazing skill. He wanted to focus on normal people like himself. So the chapter 1 wrap up is get rich slow demands a lifelong and gainful employment. Get rich slow is a losing game because it's codependent on Wall Street, your company, and anchored by your time. It's a lot of things outside of your control. And then lastly, he says the real golden years are when you're young, healthy, and vibrant and not 70 years old. So we move on to chapter 2. After MJ got out of college, he got into a lot of weird jobs and businesses. He was a day laborer, he was a dry cleaner, he was a limo driver. Well, a lot of his friends graduated college and were like, hey, I'm a training manager for Enterprise Rental Car and I'm working 60 hours a week, but I'm making 35 grand, and really proud of themselves, and more power to them. You know, entrepreneurship isn't the road for everybody, but he wasn't willing to accept that. He wasn't willing to settle for that. A lot of people viewed him as a loser, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to this. You kind of think outside the box and you're not really willing to settle and go down the path that everyone else is going on. And until you've had your success, you're kind of immature, you're a loser, you're not willing to accept responsibility. And then it seems like once you have your success, then everyone's like, this guy's a genius. He had it right all along. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things. He took risks. He did things outside the box. That's what led him to his limo thing. And I can kind of relate to this. I took a little bit longer than normal to graduate college. After college, I went out and got a job, but I couldn't see myself working in a corporate life. So I went and kind of got a bullshit job and dabbled in little hustles and entrepreneurship things. And in the long run, it actually wound up paying off. And that's kind of brings us on to our next point, which is MJ used his time at his dead-end limo job to launch himself in 2 ways. First, his previous job actually gave him the idea and his inspiration for the first limo booking company. And if you guys remember, oh shit, I spilled a beer. He talked about how he was driving a guy in Chicago to the airport, and the guy was like, hey, do you know how I can catch a limo in New York? Or do you know of a limo driver in New York? And he was like, well, I don't have the New York Yellow. You know, this is back in the late 90s before everybody had Uber and stuff. And he said, you know, I don't. And that kind of springboarded the idea to do this limo booking site where companies and or individuals could book limos in different companies. So his limo job gave him the idea and the inspiration to launch this thing new. He realized a place in the market for it. And second, because he didn't have a career, he kind of had the extra time and energy and everything from his BS job. And during his downtime, he read, he worked on his business, etc. So I can relate to that. I was in kind of a, I don't want to call it a dead end job. I enjoyed the job. I was kind of happy with the job. It had medical, dental, you know, eye insurance and all that stuff, but 401k match, but it didn't pay a lot of money, and there really wasn't any room for advancement. And I worked there for a couple of years, and I kind of got comfortable, and I really didn't want to go out and get another corporate job. So I used my time at that job to read business books and start blogs, and I had a lot of downtime at work to do that type of stuff. So I did that type of stuff. I dabbled in the stock market. I learned stocks. I learned about affiliate marketing. And that time that I spent there kind of helped springboard me into current things that I'm involved with. But also, my main business that makes me the most of my money, it's something that I realized the company I was working for was not filling a certain niche. I called up my business partner today, who is a longtime friend of mine, and I said, hey, dude, I think we may have an opportunity to make some money selling blah, blah, blah item. We pooled together $268 between the two of us and started a business that less than 2 years later was doing $2.5 million a year in sales. We totally were unprepared when we entered the business. My first e-commerce site was a complete joke. It was a Google Blogger free blog spot site with like our information down the center and PayPal buttons down the sidebar. I mean, it was a complete joke. We then moved up to a GoDaddy template site, then had a custom WordPress site designed and are now running on Shopify. But it was an evolution. But had I not been at a bullshit job where I had a lot of downtime, I probably would have never started the business. And secondly, had I not worked at that job, I never would have found out about this idea of the business to start. What you start. Okay, another lesson I thought was interesting from this. What you start may lead you into something else. Everything is a learning experience and everything is a launch pad. So MJ actually made his first and best to date money not off his limo booking website. That was making a little bit of money. But after he set up the limo booking website, he started having companies contact him and saying, hey, could you design a website for us? And he started designing websites for I think $300 or $400 a pop. And his rent at the time was $300 or $400. So I mean, one job that he did in 24 hours paid his entire rent, and then he did a couple more, and he's like, wow, this is pretty good money. But one thing he realized is that his money was tied to his time. As soon as he stops designing these websites, the money starts rolling in. And that's what kind of gave him the inspiration to kind of try to create more of a passive income or something that can grow exponentially as opposed to linearly. You know, linear is kind of like design a website, $300, design another website, $300, design another website, $300. Whereas with his limo booking site, he creates this limo booking site, and then, you know, jobs and money are coming in from all over the place, basically. We talked about how another measure of wealth is working for yourself, being in control of your own destiny, hearing from your company how your business helps them. People praised his limo booking business and how it helped their businesses grow. He took a lot of pride and enjoyment in that. I kind of talked about like prior to working at this bullshit job where I kind of launched some of my entrepreneurial stuff, I was working for a company that did like web analytics. So if the new Kung Fu Panda movie was coming out and somebody was buying 6 million impressions, they wanted to make sure it was displaying on newspaper websites all across the country. And they wanted to make sure that these 6 million impressions were delivered evenly over the course of 6 weeks, as opposed to like all blown out in one day. So my job was to basically pull reports and make sure that was happening. And if not, telling newspapers, hey, slow down, you did this many impressions yesterday, we want this paced out evenly. And I just couldn't get a lot of pride or enjoyment out of it. I think part of it is my personality type. I have a hard time like giving a shit about things that I don't care about. I was actually meaning to make a video about personality types and stuff and how understanding yours can make you better in business and better in life and things like that. And I will touch on that. But basically, if I busted my ass and 5,000 more people saw the Kung Fu Panda ads, it wasn't putting another dime in my pocket. I wasn't changing the world. It really wasn't affecting anything. Whereas when I started my own website and people email me like, hey, you know, thanks for helping me get my start in storage auctions or whatever else it was I was involved with at the time. That gave me a lot. Making $300 a month off my own efforts and getting to keep it all gave me a lot more pride and a lot more fulfillment than working for somebody else to make sure Kung Fu Panda ads were seen. So the chapter wrap up, fame or skill is not a prerequisite to wealth. Fast wealth is created exponentially, not linearly, and change can happen in an instant, but don't expect it, but it can. So a couple talking points, curious to hear from you guys in the comment. One thing I question or possibly agree with is MJ Demarco's whole like cocaine and Ferraris rich type mentality, and he kind of poo-poos the millionaire next door. He's like, oh, I don't want to talk to the guy who's frugal and saved some money and became a millionaire slowly. And I get it, I get what he's saying, but I was always taught that rich people value money. A rich guy will pick up a penny off the ground, and it's having that value for money that's the reason that he's rich. Most people who run a business and like just willy-nilly spend their money and stuff like that are not going to make it the long term, whereas the people who are looking for ways to cut costs and things like that will. Let's see. Just curious what your thoughts on that are. I kind of, I mean, we're not very deep into the book, but I kind of got the impression that MJ Demarco is like, make so much money you don't have to give a shit about saving or think about being frugal. Whereas I do think there's some value to that. But curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Drop a comment in the comment section below. The mental block about being young and successful is, I know, something that I faced when I was younger. Are any of you guys falling into this trap? Maybe some of you guys are currently, actually, I know some of you guys are facing this because some of you guys are messaging me and you're like, hey, I'm in college right now. I can't start something up right now because I'm in university. But as soon as I'm done with college, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And get that mental block out of your head that young people can't be successful. Get that mental block out of your head that, oh, I can't possibly have a real business until I'm at least 25 or until I'm at least out of college. Like, there are 16 and 17-year-olds making a shitload of money in businesses, and you can do it too. So keep that in mind. If any of you guys have faced that mental roadblock, drop a comment, talk about it. MJ talked about defining wealth in terms of lifestyle, enjoyment, and free time. Keep that in mind. Me personally, I'm not rich, but I work for myself. I'm the master of my own destiny. The fruits of my labor are mine, and that makes me very happy. Even if you have a job, get something going on the side. For those of you who don't have something going, or for those of you guys who do have something going, even if it's just a blog, even if it hasn't taken off, do you notice that you're happier at your job when you do have something going on the side? When my business was successful, it made it a lot easier going into my job because on those days when I'm like, I'd really like to tell my boss, fuck you, and walk out of here, at some point I knew that I actually could do it and support myself, and it made me less want to say screw you and walk out of here because I'm like, I don't have to be here, so I found it easier to stay at my day job when I had something going on the side. Also, if you're in a dead-end job and have nothing else going, it's easy to get like very down about the situation and stuff. Whereas if you have some kind of business going on the side, even if it's not even making money, just knowing that you have that kind of hope and optimism and that you have a purpose and a project you're working on, I think makes working for somebody else more tolerable. And then lastly, finding your own direction, big picture. But what do you guys think about like big picture business books like this? Like I said, this book isn't going to tell you how to set up an affiliate site, right? But there's still value in it. One thing that's interesting, I saw MJ Demarco said this book has a formula or like almost like a stepping stone to creating wealth. So we haven't gotten into that yet, but I'm curious to hear what his formula is. Like, is it to invest a certain... Basically, I want to know if we're going to get into some concrete stuff, or if this is going to be a lot of like philosophical weighting and stuff like that. But curious to hear what you guys thought about part 1, which was section 1 and section 2. What nuggets of wisdom did you get out of it? Did this spur any thoughts in you? I want to know what you guys thought, so drop a comment in the comment section below. And then lastly, if any of you guys want to host next week or any week of the book club, just drop a comment in the previous week's book club. Let me know you want to host it. And basically, you'll just put together a video just like I did, share your thoughts on it, and then provide it to me by the Sunday or Monday of the next week when it's due. And we'll post it. And I think people would like to hear from some of you guys. And I don't want this to be all about me. I want some of you guys hosting and sharing your ideas and stuff too. So thank you guys so much for watching. Give this video a thumbs up, share it if you enjoyed it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, click that subscribe button below the left or right part of the screen. And look forward to catching you guys on the next video, guys. Later.